Okay, welcome to a class on common mistakes with vocabulary. Number one, the current generation, good word to use, meaning, usually it refers to the younger generation. A generation is just all the people of your age group in one period. And so, you can talk about your parents' generation, your grandparents' generation, and here we're talking about the current generation. Usually it means the young generation, it really does. So the current generation, which is risen with these ideas, this is the wrong word. And I think that there is an awful lot of confusion between two different verbs, although they have similar meanings, and you can see why there's confusion, which is to rise, rise, rose, risen, which would be irregular, and to raise, which is regular. Yeah, I'm pleased to say that raise is regular. But these are different, guys. Have a look at this, Raise has an object. This is how I like to teach it. Raise something, always. I shouldn't put it in brackets. I should take the brackets away because it's always raise something. Raise your arm, raise your eyebrows, raise an interesting point. It actually collocates for a lot of different things. But rise doesn't have an object, it's intransitive. So you can say the sea levels are rising, something like that. Or the sun has risen. Notice it doesn't raise something. Raise means pick up or put in the air. Rise means that something goes into the air. It doesn't mean you raise something. So it's always raise your hand and not rise your hand. Raise your hand and ask a question. Raise an interesting point. I think that that's very often used, in fact. Raise an interesting point. So please remember the difference between these two, because here, because it's being used in passive, we've got to say that we raise our children with these ideas, or our children, or the current generation, which is raised with these ideas, And it's got to be which is raised for this reason, that we raise children. And so that's another thing which collocates with raise. You raise children, and when you raise children, it means bring children up. It means exactly the same as that phrasal verb. Raise children or bring children up. Okay, so you could say with the current generation, which is brought up with these ideas, 100% synonymous with which is raised with these ideas. Okay, so definitely separate those two verbs in your head, and remember that it's always raise something, but it's never rise something. It's just something rises, end of story. Okay, number two, my parents work hardly. Now, this is definitely wrong, because even if the student wants to say that the parents hardly ever work, it would need to be before the verb. My parents hardly work or hardly ever work. And then it's correct if you mean that they don't work much at all. And this is where, if you get this wrong, you end up saying the opposite to what you want to say. The student wanted to say, my parents work hard, and not, my parents hardly work. My parents hardly work means they do no work, or very, very, very little work. Let's put it like that. And my parents work hard means they do loads of work. So you can see that forgetting or adding on an ly to the word has actually completely changed the meaning. Please remember that this word hard is an adjective and an adverb. It's something called a flat adverb, and I talk about them on my grammar course. I won't go into detail about flat adverbs right now, but basically this word hard is an adjective or an adverb when it means, you can work hard, you can try hard. What else can you do? You can talk about a hard exam, meaning a difficult exam. A hard question, meaning a difficult question. So it's definitely an adjective or an adverb. This hardly is not related, well, I'm sure it etymologically maybe is, but you want to see these two words as completely different because they mean very different things. Hardly is used like in hardly ever, yeah, meaning not much at all, yeah, or hardly. If you say I can hardly see you, it means I almost can't see you. That's what it means when you say I can hardly see you, or can you turn up the music, please? I can hardly hear it. Yeah, it means you can't hear it at all, or you only hear very little of it. So please separate hardly and hard in your head, otherwise you'll end up saying something like this, where really you mean they work hard. Yeah, that's what you want to say, they work hard, and not they hardly work, which is the opposite. So be careful with hard and hardly.